I'm very excited about what I'm seeing where the most ambitious entrepreneurs are building AI applications. And we look at companies, for example, like Helsing using AI to build real-world defense systems, looking at Proxima using AI to accelerate the build-out of fusion power plants. And additionally, there are a bunch of other European companies, Synthesia, 11 Labs, maybe Lovable, who are using AI to generate voice, audio, code. So I think there is so much excitement about the applications that are being built. Maybe there are more headlines going to the models, but I think the change around the models is happening so rapidly, and companies coming up with 10x better models, and I think the carpet may get pulled outside, but applications, I think we're seeing real value being created by lots of entrepreneurs.
Is that where you think the profitability for AI businesses will be? Because when you look at the models, there's a lot of debate about whether they will become commoditized, whether open weight or open source models eat the lunch of some of those closed models as well.
I imagine that on the model side, we're going to see probably both. We'll see a lot of open source solutions. There will be proprietary ones as well. I'd probably still be more bullish on the profits in the long term being on the application side, because I think these can be more defensible with proprietary data. And I think we're seeing lots of progress there as well.
Fascinating. What has DeepSeek done to your investment thesis, if anything? Because the excitement around DeepSeek, we saw a knee-jerk reaction in the public markets, and the debate was about whether this means we're overspending on AI with all these multi-billion-dollar infrastructure projects, and whether actually some of the valuations these model companies have garnered should be called into question. Has it done anything to change your investment thesis?
I have been a fan of 10x better products for a very long time. And I think the way to look at DeepSeek is maybe it's a 10x advantage on the model side, which just shows how quickly innovation is happening, which means that the business cases are much harder to make on the model side. Kind of hence why we spoke about applications before, that I think the applications could be in a much more sustainable and defensible position today.
Taavet, before this interview, we were sort of debating the geopolitics of tech, and during this AI summit over the past few days, the geopolitics, I think, was laid bare. The US and the UK didn't sign up to this AI communique at the summit. We heard from US Vice President J.D. Vance, who sounded very critical on Europe's regulatory approach, etc. What does the geopolitics mean as you think about investing in tech, given it feels that there are more and more silos being created and each region or country needs to sort of fend for itself?
I mean, we are living in a brave new world, and maybe when even a year ago we could think about China being kind of getting separated on an island. I think maybe now we have to think about there is US, there is Europe, there is China, and we're going to need defense companies in every country. We're going to need foundational models. We're going to need data centers. So I think that for geopolitical reasons and for resilience, we will need to build up a lot of the same things in Europe, which maybe a year or a few ago we didn't really think so, but I think it's a great use of also the fundings that's been announced at the summit here. So, I would assume that we will need to build more of the things, kind of duplicates in some ways, just to give us the resilience.
So almost an open AI for Europe, Palantir, Anduril for Europe, this kind of thing?
And I think we're seeing that happening. I mean, I agree with you.
Yeah. What is it? And for your investment, then you are focusing on a lot of European companies as well. Does that create new opportunities as you see it? So when you look at some of these AI companies, perhaps in a world where there was closer collaboration between the US and Europe, perhaps that company wouldn't have been as prominent. But now, given the situation you're laying out, actually there's more opportunity there.
And we are already seeing it. I mean, for example, with Helsing building a defense AI company, there is probably a US equivalent of this. Same thing, we're looking at Proxima building a fusion energy power plant. There are fusion energy companies in the US, Proxima being, we believe, the best technology using the Stellarator approach, is going to be a European champion building a globally needed product. So I think we're going to see this happening in more and more of the kind of more fundamental and more in areas which need a lot of resilience.
In terms of valuations as an investor, Taavet, you've seen the model side of the equation, and we've seen astronomical valuations there. Are you seeing the same hype and valuations happening in the areas you're investing in on the AI application side?
I've seen a few cycles happen in the tech world, and every time in a cycle you get some companies that are showing amazing traction and are able to generate these huge headline valuations. I think what we really care more about is the valuations we're going to be seeing in 5-10 years from now. Oftentimes we see some of these companies may run a little bit ahead. They're going to correct later, so it's just a little bit too early to say.
And in terms of Europe's position in this, we've spoken about the geopolitics of it all, but Europe has had its own challenges, and there's a continued debate whether there is too much regulation, whether Europe has invested in enough infrastructure. One of the things that it seemed that President Macron of France was trying to do during the summit was shake off this image as Europe as anti-innovative, over-regulatory. But as an entrepreneur and as an investor, are there still some big challenges Europe needs to overcome? And are there some things that need to change for Europe to really compete in the AI realm on a global stage?
I think when it comes to regulation, we are seeing a changing kind of landscape, and I think it was quite symbolic to see that the summit has gone from AI safety to more AI acceleration. What I wish is that we're going to see a more level playing field across the world. If the US is dealing with ripping out regulation and Vance is talking about opportunity in AI, then in Europe we're not going to go that far if we add more regulation on top of it. So I think Europe has to think about this as how do we create a level playing field for the great European entrepreneurs to compete. If we look at the ingredients, we have a lot of talent in Europe. So there is a huge portion of AI researchers that are coming from Europe, and we're seeing more and more companies being built here. We just need to make sure that there's a level playing field, that we do not shoot ourselves in the foot.
Yeah. Just a final one from me, Taavet, on the use of AI. There is this debate about, I promise I won't get into this, but now we're here, scaling laws and how AI is going to scale, how it's going to become more efficient, and actually whether that means it's going to become more ubiquitous, more used across consumers, across enterprise. How are you looking at that journey right now? Are we at a point where you're going to see sort of exponential growth of the use of AI, or is there still a lot of challenges in terms of implementation in businesses and for consumers as well?
I think we're definitely going to see accelerated usage of AI across all areas. I think sometimes, the hype goes a little bit ahead, but if we're looking at user numbers, I think they are growing in a very nice way. I'm actually excited about DeepSeek, which is making it cheaper. There's also like many news been now about people using $400 or $50 to train a model. So I think if this becomes cheaper, there's going to be a lot more usage, and that's actually a good thing. That's a good thing for everyone, and it's going to help the entrepreneurs. We're going to have more impact this way.
And does that mean more infrastructure and compute will be required? Because this is a big question.
I would not bet that we need less infrastructure and compute. How quickly we need 10x more, I don't know.